Greetings, I am Tom Merle. On this week's episode, we talk art and creating your own rainbows with Tania Ahmed. Check it out. Greetings, I am Tom Merle, and this is my year of grace. We know you could be anywhere, so the fact that you are here today, sharing your greatest gifts, your time and energy means the world to me. I hope you know that in this moment, you are valued, you are appreciated, and you are loved just as you are. As you can see, I am not alone. I have an amazing guest. She goes by the name of Tania Ahmed. How's it going today, Tania?
I'm good, thank you. How are you, Tom?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much for asking. Do you mind if I introduce you to the good folks out there via sharing with them a little bit about you through your bio?
Please.
Okay, cool. Tania Ahmed is passionate about anything and everything crafting. Originally from Pakistan, Tania moved to the UK 12 years ago, and she comes from a family of crafters. She specializes in everything and anything to do with embossing powder, which means she's heavily into paper crafts at the moment. She also loves getting messy with mixed media, encaustic art, jewelry making, embroidery, block printing, sewing. That's just to name a few. She is also a digital content creator and teaches online classes and in person. She also works with craft magazines to create step-by-step projects they can feature in their publications. That's amazing. Sounds like you're doing really awesome stuff. So you said that your family is really into crafting. So you've been doing it your whole life. When's the youngest you can take us back to that you remember being around art or creativity in a positive way?
Um, well, as you mentioned in my bio, I'm originally from Pakistan, and I was born and raised there. And I come from a family and tradition where crafting isn't just a hobby; it's a way of life. So I've grown up wearing dresses that my mother sewed herself. Um, I was a very treasured daughter. I have an older brother, but I was the daughter they wanted. And I have cousins and aunts who have all sorts of skills like sewing and embroidery and crochet and sketching and drawing and artists. And everyone has a some sort of artistic hobby or um, something that they're into. And I've grown up seeing that. So I've sort of absorbed that while growing up. So I've been creative all my life, and I didn't never really thought that you could turn those skills or those creativity into a career until I grew up and realized, oh my God, there's a whole world out there, and you can actually make money doing what you love.
I know all my artists who are listening right now are like, wow, you said that this is something you could actually create a career out of. Like, are you sure? So tell us a little bit about when you started to realize that and how that journey's been.
Um, I guess that journey would have begun when I first moved to the UK. Um, because when I was growing up, I wanted to go to art school. I really wanted to go to art school, but I was, because it was quite expensive, it was something that at that time we couldn't afford. So I decided not to go down that route. And plus, there was some family resistance um, saying that, it's not something that you can make money doing, it's not a career option. Um, and it's something that I've spoken to my family about, and they have regrets that I never got to go to art school, but I don't have any regrets because the way I've picked up my skills is if I'd gone to school, my learning would have been like that. But because I've picked up so many skills myself, my skill set is like that. And that's what you need to have when you want to start your own career or be an entrepreneur and have your own business, because there's so many different hats you need to be wearing.
I love that. And for the people on the podcast, they weren't able to see your hand expressions. So do you
Oh,
mind, clarifying a little bit, but also going into that, how you felt like, not going to school was actually became a strength, was actually an asset, really helped your career. Can you talk a little bit about that and clarify what you meant by this and that?
if I had gone to art school, then it would have been very, very focused, and I would have been told that this is the right way to do things, and this is how it should have been done. It would have been a very narrow path. It would have given me like a great set of skills to start with. Don't get me wrong, but because I've picked up skills and I've learned things by myself, depending on what I needed at that time. So I didn't know color theory, for example. I had to learn that. So I took a lot of online classes, watched a lot of videos, talked to a lot of artists. I didn't know how to film videos. That's something I'm entirely self-taught there, and I don't have any training as an artist, and I wasn't very good at school, but I think as an adult I've gained this newfound love for learning. I'm just always thinking, what more can I learn from this? And even if I'm going into a situation where it might be something I already know about, I always say to myself, what can I learn from this? It's not that, I know this already. It's all about what can I learn from this. So I always try and take something away from every experience, be it good or bad.
I love that. And that's a conversation I have with guests, but also in my personal life, how for a lot of us, and myself included, school was this boring thing. And I didn't realize my thirst for learning until I was an adult. Do you mind sharing what was it, or was there any books you read or podcasts you listened to? Was there anything that kind of cultivated that mindset of I'm going to make whatever experience I go through a learning experience? That how you got that?
Um, I think growing up, I wasn't good at school because I had a very limited choice of subjects that I could choose. So, me being a very creative, artistic person, in what you would consider high school, I studied biochemistry physics. And then later on, I studied uh, business studies, computer science, and sociology. And so I went through all my life thinking that I was stupid, um, and thinking, oh, you know what, I'm just not book smart. And it wasn't until I went to college and university where I actually got to study the subjects that I loved, which was literature and English, is when I realized that, oh my God, I have a brain and I'm actually pretty good at it.
What's your message to somebody who maybe is in that part of the journey where they're feeling like they're not smart or that they can't learn something, and so they keep coming up against a wall where they're going to need to learn a new skill, a new something to make it happen, but for whatever reason they're still believing that they're not good enough, they're not able to do this? What would be your message for them?
It's definitely about mindset, and it's something I struggle with on a daily basis. But what you have to understand is everyone's time will come, and everyone's time to shine will come, and everyone has something they're very, very good at. And if you can't figure that out, just throw yourself in new situations and just learn and see what you like and what you don't like. Where I am right now is it's come through a lot of trial and error. I didn't really have a clear path. I still don't. And I've learned to embrace the process rather than, think about the goal. And I just think that if you think that there's something you're not good at, you just haven't found it yet. That's my message.
I love that. That was amazing. It sounds like a big part of your journey required courage. Am I correct in believing that?
I guess so. I when people tell me that, I find that, yeah, I have to acknowledge that I don't think that of myself. Um, but when I think back, um, I I suppose I was, um, because my faith is such a big part of who I am. I think that's sort of given me the courage to, and the faith to just keep persevering. When I moved to the UK, it was really hard. I have family here, but we lived in a small town and I didn't really know anyone. So the first couple of years was really hard. And I would say it took at least 5 or 6 years until I could call England home. And it was hard, but because I made an effort to try and put myself out there and make connections and relationships with my new environment and world, I guess that's how it all the pieces started coming together.
That's wonderful. If you don't mind sharing, what was it about your faith that provided you with that foundation, that strength to get you through it?
Um, I'm Muslim, so one of the verses, I am probably butchering this, but this is my understanding of it, is that God doesn't put a, a burden on someone that they can't bear. So whatever life throws at you, I always have that unflinching, well, I always have to remind myself, but that's what I remind myself, that whatever um, problems I'm facing, whatever issues I'm facing, this is something that I'm already equipped to deal with. So that's where I draw my strength from.
That's wonderful. It brings to mind too the with difficulty comes ease.
Yes,
For me myself, that's one of the things I think that Islam is as a philosophy is wonderful for, is dealing with hardship, overcoming adversity. So
yes,
I resonate with what you're saying.
yes.
So for art and crafting, you brought up a little bit earlier, process or goal focused or process or product focused. And that's a big debate or approach within art. Is, do you create art for the end result so you can look at it and sell it, or the process of creating? Where do you fall on that, or how do you look at the philosophy of process and product when it comes to art?
Um, it you have to have goals at the end of the day, because without a goal you can't score. um, because you have to have a goal because you need directions. But at the same time, you have to be in love with the process as well. Um, because getting to where you want to be can sometimes be a grind, and it can be about endlessly putting content out there and not really getting a positive response or the response you wanted to it. Or it's like art is really personal. It's like you're putting your baby out there into the world and the world rejects it. So you have to take that with a pinch of salt, and you always have to remember that the journey is never like straightforward. There's always going to be twists and turns. And I mean, I'm a huge fan of Casey Neistat, a YouTuber, and he talks about this process about of reaching from point A to point B, point B being your goal, and you're like Tarzan and you're swinging from vine to vine. And when you're swinging through a forest, you will never go in a straight line. You'll be going left and then right, and then you come to an obstacle, and then you might have to take a step back, but then you need to keep going forward, try and going forward. And sometimes in that process, you might realize that this isn't something that I want to do, and your goal might change. So that's what I'm going through right now. I'm trying different things. There's so many ways that artists can, make money from what they're doing. And I'm just trying them all and just seeing, what is a good fit for me and what's a good fit for my personality.
I love that analogy. You were saying that you're at a place like that. Do you mind sharing what you were doing, and then what the kind of that realization that I want to try something different? Can you kind of take us to that point?
I guess I could start from the beginning, from how I started in the industry, I guess. So um, I initially trained to become an interpreter at an agency that a friend of mine was working at, and I started working in the offices as well. It was a charity and an amazing place for anyone to start their career. That was basically my first job, and I worked there for a couple of years, and I started taking part in a lot of online challenges, and I started to get some really positive feedback on my work. I had a blog at that time. Instagram didn't exist. Um, and Facebook, not so much. So I used to post on Flickr, if anyone knows what Flickr is. Still love it. Um, so I used to take part in a lot of challenges, got positive feedback, and then there was a company over here in the UK, and they were advertising for design team. So what design team means is basically you get paid in product and you produce blog posts and samples for them, for the company. So I worked a little extra hard. So that's another one of my suggestions to anyone, is like always under promise but over deliver. So I put together a project for them, and they loved it so much um, that their in-office person was leaving, and I was asked if I would like to work full time for them, being their sort of, a project coordinator of sorts. So I worked there for about 5.5, almost 6 years, and working behind the scenes, doing a lot of administrative work within the creative industry. So I got a lot of um, experience from that. And in the end, I decided that because I was a creative person, it was a great job. It was a great job. And it was very, very hard for me to leave. But I realized that I was a creative person and I didn't want to be sat in front of a computer screen all the time. Mind you, I'm still sat in front of the computer screen most of the time. But I just wanted to see if I could make something of this by myself. And here I am. And I find it funny that people like yourself actually consider me, okay enough to be on your podcast, or people ask me for advice. How did you do it? I'm like, I'm still trying to figure it out. So I guess I must be doing something right.
Agreed. So you were talking how you kind of came to a place where you want to try something new. Do you mind sharing a little bit about that process? What was the new thing that you want to try, or any part of that journey that you can share?
Well, at the moment, like I mentioned, there's many different ways that artists can, get paid for their work. So I do a lot of magazine work. I work with companies who pay me to make videos for them. Um, and I also do in-person workshops, so I teach at stores. And I'm also looking into doing online workshops, digital courses. Um, so there's something about each one of those processes like that I don't quite like. Like, for example, I've just realized that I wanted to be a YouTuber and make videos. I've just realized that I need to be incredibly picky about working with certain companies now, because there's certain companies who are a bit uh, more demanding about their requirements, and you need to learn that is that really your thing. Like magazine work can sometimes doesn't really pay you that much. Um, it's surprising to some people that magazine work doesn't pay that much. But at the same time, it's really good for developing your portfolio, that you're a published artist or a crafter or a creative. Um, Also, like I used to think, oh, I want to be on design teams, but at the end of the day, you're not really getting paid for your products. You're getting products in return for work that you do. Products are nice, but you can't survive on just products. So I've made a conscious decision to not do design team work, and I just do a couple of guest posts here and there. But when someone is starting out, sometimes doing work for free can be really good. Like one of the companies that I work for, I make videos for, I just absolutely love them. And I couldn't believe that when I was accepted to be on their design team. And I started making videos for them for free. And they loved my videos so much because they realized how much engagement they were getting on social media with my videos. When I met them at one of the trade shows, I was actually able to, without even me finishing my sentence, I didn't even need to finish my sentence. They instantly agreed that yes, we definitely need to pay you to do those videos. Um, so it's more about, picking and choosing people you want to work with, what kind of work you want to do. Like video editing isn't for everyone. You need to be a certain kind of person who likes screaming at editing software sometimes. The struggle is real.
That spinning wheel of death.
Oh my god. Oh my goodness. I just remember I spent like 6-7 hours editing a video, and I was doing it on a pretty powerful piece of software, and I hadn't saved it, and I lost
Oh,
all that work.
no.
But the thing was that because I'd done all the editing beforehand, like all the photo editing and knowing how I wanted things, and I'd done the voiceover. So it took me half the time to put it back together, but I learned my lesson.
Oh, gotta save the work.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hard way. Just learned it the hard way.
You mentioned, now we're talking, that the creation of art can be sometimes frustrating, but there's also the aspect of, you shared earlier, the vulnerability of putting your work out there for people to receive.
Yeah.
What encouragement would you share? What reflections do you have for people who they have all this work, but they're stuck at that place of sharing it with the world because they want it to be perfect, or they've received so much criticism before, or anything like that that you want to share with us?
Uh, I would suggest reading the works of Stephen Pressfield, um, War of Art. And if War of Art it's a very easy read. If you don't want to read that, then I would suggest at least reading Do the Work by Stephen Pressfield. It's I think those those books are incredibly important for any creative to read. It talks um, about how not wanting to do the work, he calls it resistance, and how we have to be like warriors and fight the resistance every day. So, and one of the things he talks about is you can't attach too much um, importance and emotions into your art. It's just art. And what you need to do is you need to make art, you need to put it out there, and then you need to make more art. So you just need to release it out in the world, and then you just keep making more art and more and more. So you have to keep that momentum going.
So for you in your life, what does being a warrior and actively working against that resistance, what does that look like in your life? How do you do that?
Um, it is hard. It's not easy, and it's not for everyone. You need to work on your mindset on a daily basis. Um, so I've been implementing something called the Miracle Morning. It's by Hal Elrod. So I'm I'm waking up. I'm doing all the savers as they're described in the book. With I think it's silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing. So I try and incorporate that on a daily basis. There are days when I don't do it all every day. Um, there are days when you don't wake up feeling so great. But you have to consciously put yourself into that frame of mind, and you always have to be in the habit of being an action taking kind of person, because it's so easy to get stuck on our devices all the time, scrolling Instagram for inspiration, Pinterest for inspiration. Next thing you know, 2 3 hours are gone. So you have to develop that discipline, and at the moment I'm really having to do that because I put in a lot of work last year, and I've got a lot of opportunities this year, and I'm trying to juggle them all. And if I don't get my mindset right, then I do struggle because it can be overwhelming keeping on top of deadlines. And I have a part-time job as well, which I think I might, not I might, I will, resign from next year, um, so that I can pursue this full time.
We'll make sure that we bleep that out when if so your boss doesn't
Oh no, I've already made them aware of it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's good integrity.
Yeah, it's that my husband was like, you don't need to tell people stuff like that, but I think it's all about, because it's not me, it's not who I am, and I need to be true to who I am, and I just can't sneak around. Like, as an artist, and I'm also a very sensitive person as well, and um I call myself an ambivert, but I I'm probably an introvert in denial, and I I don't like confrontation, and so you have to develop that mindset. Again, it comes back to mindset, that sometimes you need to have that difficult conversation, you need to send off that difficult email, sometimes you need to ask for more, and it's okay to do that. The other person isn't really going to think that you're crazy or asking for too much. What's the least that can happen? They'll just say no. um, and when you get into the habit of doing difficult things, you find that it's easier and easier for you to take action on your never-ending list of things to do.
What role does art or the creativity or crafting, what role does that or can that play in this mindset development? Where art as a form of processing or therapy or growing, the emotional aspect of yourself. What role do you see art and crafting and creativity playing in that?
Um, because I work uh, behind the scenes, like with a manufacturer, and I worked as a teacher and I'm a consumer as well of all the things and videos and inspiration that's out there. So I've got a pretty broad view of what role art and creativity and craft play in someone's life. It's it's a means of connecting to other people, especially if it's to do with the community. Um, because it's not just about crafting, it's about connecting with like-minded individuals as well. Um, I express myself through craft and my art, and because I come from a culture that's very colorful and full of pattern. So being able to express that through my art is something that's really important to me, especially on days over here in the UK where it rains pretty much 80% of the time. Sometimes you need to make your own rainbows.
I love that. And I think that might need to be the name of this episode. What does that look like for you in addition to the patterns and the colors? How do you create your own rainbows in your life?
For me, crafting is my therapy. I mean, that's something I shared on my Instagram a couple of days ago. If I wasn't crafting, then I wouldn't probably be a very nice person to be around. um, but it's just my creative outlet, and there's like the feel of the supplies. So you've got the sensory aspect to it, the colors which uplift me, and I do a lot of repeat patterns. So repetition can actually be quite calming as well. So there's a lot of repetition in my work and a lot of layering as well, because I love texture, I love visual texture as well. So yeah, I couldn't imagine my life without being creative in some way or another. It's a very big part of who I am.
I love that so much. That's wonderful. So you might have heard me say at the beginning that this is my year of grace. And so one of the reasons I have a year of is to kind of infuse my year with an intention and to also have a conversation with people about that intention. So if you don't mind sharing, what does grace look like in your life?
Grace is always for me, is God's presence in my life, with the opportunities that I've been given, with the people that have been put into my life, um, to guide me and cheer me along on the way. And even for those people who have not wished me well, I am grateful for those people as well, because you learn something from every experience. So that for me is grace, and I am always, always thankful for that, for seeing that hand in my life.
It sounds like grace and gratitude kind of go hand in hand in what you're talking about.
Oh yes, oh yes. Gratitude it's so incredibly important for me to be grateful for what I have. Like a couple of years ago, I'm getting emotional now. Um, I if someone had told me that I'd be living the life I am right now, maybe 15 years ago, I would have laughed at them. Um, I thought that I would be I would be living in some dark and dingy house, just ironing with like half a dozen kids pulling at my clothes. And here I am with a wonderful husband who's incredibly supportive, and a cat, and a room of my own full of things, beautiful things that make me really happy. And I live in a country where I feel safe and surrounded by people and family who love me very, very much. And when you're an artist, and I do come across a lot of people with mental health issues and anxiety within the art and craft community, when you're stuck in your own head and you're just there by yourself, it can be really isolating. So it's important for me to constantly remember and remind myself of all the wonderful things that have happened to me, and so that when everyone has ups and downs, and everyone has their own personal cross to bear, and we all look at everyone's Instagram and think that, oh my god, their life is wonderful, but it's not actually. It's just a highlight reel, and everyone has something that they're worried about or upset with, or they're missing something. So it's important to remember that. That's why gratitude is such a big part of grounding myself and reminding myself that I have so much to be grateful for. So I journal a lot. Prayer is again a big part of my life. I actually have a list stuck up on my wall over there with all the big things that I've achieved in the past year. So every time I'm feeling like, oh my God, why do I bother? It's like, who cares? And then I look at that and then think, oh, maybe it's not too bad.
That's wonderful. And I really appreciate you sharing all of that with us. And I know I'm confident people listening right now are resonating with it and maybe even going to their own place of self-reflection. So I appreciate, once again, your courage in sharing that with us. So thank you so much.
Thank you for asking me to come on. I'm incredibly humbled that I've been asked.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I resonated right away. I was like, oh yeah, this person's going to be great. Let's do this. um, so where can people reach out to you to share with you how awesome you are, to share their affirmations, and also to follow some of your craft videos? Where can they do that?
Well, you can find me on my blog, on my new blog, TaniaAhmedCreative.com. I'm on Instagram as Tania Ahmed, and my YouTube channel is will also be linked as well. I'm in the process of trying to change the URL.
Awesome. And for folks who are on the go, show notes today, tomrell.com/Tania, tomrell.com/TANIA, tomrell.com/Tania. Tania, I just want to thank you once again. This is, you took a chance saying, yes, I'll do the interview with you. And I'm really glad you did, because I know people listening right now, this felt very like relaxing and therapeutic. It was very, for me, just is really awesome. A lot of the points you brought up, I'm going to listen to again. And I just want to thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much for your kind and humble energy, and for being so thoughtful with your questions.
It is my pleasure. Our closing ritual is for you to share an invitation with those who are listening. So it can be an invitation for them to think about, something you'd like to invite them to become, something you'd like to invite them to do, to evolve into. What would be your invitation?
My invitation would be, if you're feeling stuck where you are, try something small and take action on that. And you'll find that just taking that one small step will make you want to do more. So I hope that you take the time to do something for yourself, to do something for just for the heck of it, something that scares you, and make time to bring more joy into your life.
Inshallah. I love that. I mean, Tania, thank you so much. This has been awesome. And I loved how you closed with that invitation. So it's just been such a wonderful theme throughout this whole interview. So I'm so grateful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Of course. And to all of those who are listening, as always, we're wishing you peace and blessings. Thank you. One more thing. I'd love to continue the conversation. Feel free to join me at tomearl.com/join. Subscribe below, or let's connect on social media. Tom Earl Artist. Thanks again for watching.